Yeah, we got the power, we got the speed. We're running wide open on a midsummer breeze. Fresh water, salt water, watch out, boys. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. Well, some like to rock, some like to roll. Me and the boys like to shake, rattle, and troll. Shake, rattle, and troll. Yeah, kids do what they like. Grab your favorite pole. Me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and troll.
It's time for Shake, Rattle, and Troll, a show for the serious fisherman, as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros. Shake, Rattle, and Troll is brought to you by Bill Luke Dodge Chrysler Jeep. Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman and tournament pro, Don McDowell.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm Don McDowell. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Shake, Rattle, and Troll. We call it the Sunday edition because we don't do it on Saturday, so I think that's only appropriate. Oh, man, I'll tell you what. This is where a bad day of fishing beats a good day anything else, man.
Correct.
Absolutely. JK's in the house, president of the ADA, entrepreneur, and our bagel sponsor from Safeguard Business Systems.
Good morning, Bass Daddy.
Thank you. And today I'm honored to have Kurt Davis. You will know him as the Commissioner Davis from Arizona Game and Fish Department in the house.
Good morning.
Welcome. I appreciate you wearing a suit and a tie down here today for you.
If anybody buys into that, they're really dumb.
Hoorah. And my good friend Martin Rhodes. Martin, God love you. Thanks for coming down, man.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to be talking a little bit about some of this, I'm going to call it nonsense. And Commissioner, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Coming out of the Coconino National Forest Camp, we were talking about some of the
mandates.
Was it a mandate?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I just thought it was a poor decision.
A lot of them are.
Yeah, right. But, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got some elk hunting opportunities getting ready to kick loose, going into the Thanksgiving season. Some guys have bull tags, and some of us don't.
Oh, are you still whining about that? Come on, in 2 months you get to put in again.
Actually, the truth be known, I've been relegated to guide, gatherer of wood,
cook,
camp cook. Yeah, don't forget that part. Gutter and skinner. So
I tell you, you do not need to do that gutting stuff.
You know what? I've been doing it that way forever.
So was I. Change, adapt. Make it easier on yourself.
Change.
Oh, yeah. Change.
Pray tell.
Ooh.
All right, let me get another couple opinions. Okay, you call it what now?
The gutless method.
Do you do that, Kurt?
Yeah. No, I've been in the same role you've been in for the last few years as well. Yeah.
You?
As far as?
You pull the innards out or you skin around them?
Pull them out.
Pull them out, yep.
And you do that because how come?
It's easier, faster, and better, and you don't get any of the innards on the meat.
What about bleeding your game out and cooling it out immediately?
You're only worried about cooling it out for the hips, and those are cleaned off and removed without gutting the animal in a whole lot less time than you pouring garbage all over the forest floor. You leave that pouch intact. That way the coyotes have a nice big happy dinner, or the wolves.
It's going to be a long 2 hours. I was kind of hoping today would be, really stellar and just, kind of blow by like a drunk Friday
I'm here.
night.
It ain't happening. Over. Ain't happening.
All righty then. I guess we'll be moving right along. What did you get drawn for this year?
I have a wonderful spring turkey tag up on the North Kaibab, which I combo with Lee's Ferry Fishing. So that's
nice.
That's always an exciting for me, and I have general season javelina. Normally I'm a black powder hunter, but I can't get my compatriots on the Game and Fish Commission to move the February meeting, off of the weekend of black powder, which is my preferred hunt.
Can't you call in sick?
You can. That does happen. I've been using that excuse since grade school, for crying out loud.
You try not to.
Wow. That's a tough one. Well, I was just going over. I got the e-news from the department on 10,400 leftover turkey tags, javelina tag. Got some bear tags up in 3A, 3C, John.
Bear tags?
Yeah, 16 archery tags, 3B and 3C.
When do they start?
I didn't bring my regs.
Oh.
But,
No, bear tag I'm interested in this year. That archery bear tag I would really,
right there, Monday morning we can go get 2.
Buy them over the counter?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Monday morning. And then, because of my schedule glitch, let's say, I think I'm going to choose Unit 20A for General Javelina.
Why?
It's close.
20A on the
south of Prescott Valley.
yeah, north of Cleator, and
There's God.
Cleator, the place that God forgot. Yes, I remember that. I've been through there many times. Isn't it on the way up to
Crown King.
Crown King? Yeah, it's
That's a great stopping point.
Yeah. Yeah, you can join up for the militia, all the stuff that they offer in Crown King. Nice.
Yeah. All those people who have left society live in Cleator.
How big of an impact did that fire have, do you think, moving game around?
Well, my black powder favorite unit was 20B, and it's been hammered, as we both, we all know here, over the last few years with fires, and there's also a very healthy population of lions in that unit.
Nice.
And so,
It's not so much the fire as it is the lions.
You have the lion tag. John, do you have a black powder weapon?
I do not. I almost converted over to that when I was desperate enough to try anything to get drawn way back in the day.
I was looking up the definition, so I pulled a 40 caliber bullet out of one of my cartridges, and my powder is black. Does that count, Commander?
no, that might not count.
Negative on that one, sir.
It needs to say blunderbuss on the side of it, then you.
Wow. How about you, Martin?
Archery Javelina.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. What unit?
We're going to be hunting in 39.
Right.
Okay, where is 39?
US 85 in the river bottom.
Okay, where is US 85 in the river bottom?
Robbins Butte, Powers Butte.
Okay,
that area.
Okay.
Good stuff. Well, I've been talking to quite a few guys that have been hunting below the line, the Homeland Security warning line down in 36. I mean, there's down in that neighborhood, there is SCAD 35B, 36A, 36B,
Right.
36C, 7. God, man, there's 2,000 tags available down there.
I'm not going to name names, but it rhymes with Maris, and he's a commissioner now. He loves those tags because he knows where to go.
Yeah.
He buys them up all the time. He never has to worry, he said.
Very true. Very true.
He buys more than one?
No, we're not going to go there.
Check. Well,
He provides guide service on a regular
I'm just
basis.
thinking, Commissioner, this ought to be, 2-for-1 sale. I mean, these are leftovers.
Yeah.
You buy 2 for 20.
Yeah, that ain't flying.
It actually brings up a good point, though. Under licensification, the commission has the ability to act much quicker in dealing with these kinds of issues and provide
Adapt and evolve.
Bundled opportunities and so that's that's an exciting option, and we do have areas now where there is a double take,
Multiple tags, yeah.
Ooh, maybe McDowell Sonoran Preserve would be a great place to do that.
Random gunfire. That's so off. Boy. Who's your buddy there, Michael Mayer?
Michael Mayer.
Yeah, nice. I don't think
They're not going to give me an award either.
No, nor am I.
No,
that's not going to happen.
No, I actually believe this year our Christmas card list has dwindled.
Substantially.
All right, let's get to it. Martin, you had an episode up in Unit 6B with seizure of personal property. What happened?
Well, I can tell you what I do know. My son and I were hunting up in 6B, archery deer. And in scouting, we had taken 2 of our game cameras up into the unit and mechanically affixed them to a tree, and we were monitoring a water hole. When we showed up on the 22nd, evening of the 22nd, noticed that game cameras were gone. So instantly thought, well, they've been stolen. So the next morning when we got up to get up in the tree stand, took a look at the trees where the cameras were, and the one thing that I noticed right away, and I told my son, was it appears that these cameras have been taken. It doesn't look like they've been stolen. It didn't have the traditional stolen look to me.
Wait a minute. What's the difference between stolen and taken? It's gone. It's gone.
Well, I've had things stolen from me, and thieves they're not as careful as it appeared that the individuals who removed these cameras, they were very well prepared. The locks were, of course, cut.
Mm-hmm.
The camera's gone. The security boxes were gone. The locks were gone. There was no metal fragments on the ground. And
Clean up the mess.
Yeah, and then they didn't cut the lag bolts, or the bolts that were affixed into the tree. They removed them.
Oh,
and everything was gone.
Yep. All right.
As opposed to taking a hacksaw down the back of the security box.
We're cutting down the tree.
Right. Yeah. So, that was a comment that I made to my son. So we just figured they were stolen, and finished out the hunt. And later on, he got to thinking about it. He goes, I'm going to call and ask. So he calls. I think the first call he made was Arizona Game and Fish. Game and Fish says, no, that's not something we would do. So then he thought, okay, I'll call Coconino County Forest Service. We've been in there before.
Mm-hmm.
Called them.
In the office?
In the office. His first attempt, nobody answered the phone. Second, third attempt, finally he got a hold of the receptionist. He says, I think it was Karen Carswell, I'm not sure. Talked to the lady, explained the situation. She goes, you know what? I've heard something about 2 cameras being confiscated or impounded, but I'm not sure. I'm going to refer you to Susan Romero.
Go ahead.
So she transferred him over to Susan Romero, got the voicemail, said, please call me. Here's my number. So Susan calls him back, and he explained, pleaded his case. Here's our situation. Didn't try to hide anything. Here's what we did. Here's what happened. Just calling to find out if it was you guys that took it or took the cameras. And she goes, indeed, I know for a fact that 2 cameras were confiscated by the officers in the field, but you need to talk to them, so I'll refer you to them.
So, having said that, we're going to stand down and take a break.
Okay.
More with Martin Rhodes.
All right.
The mystery continues. I'm Don McDowell here with
John Colazar.
Kurt Davis.
And
Martin Rhodes.
Hey, we'll be right back.
Long as I remember, ring out and Chris tosses into being green. My buddy said he saw y'all eating that sushi stuff. Baby, that don't sound like you. That don't sound like
that's cold.
It sounds like it sucks. He can't even bait a hook.
Nice!
He can't even skin a bug.
Yeah, compliments of Commissioner Davis, JK. There you go. All right, now that the ice has been broken.
I have been hammered by supposed friends.
You're in good company. All right, we're talking with Commissioner...
Yours is a 4-wheel drive version, though, isn't it?
With a lift kit, yes.
Yeah, lift kit. Yeah, camel seat covers.
Yeah.
Hoorah. Commissioner Davis is here. We're going to be talking about some of the things going on up at Coconino National Forest. Has made a decision. I missed the meeting. He didn't get the memo that they're going to have started seizing hunting camp equipment. Martin Rhodes is here describing his episode on some trail cams, and now you've called in. Now you're getting ready to call the top cop, wood cop.
Correct.
Back to you.
Okay. So Ms. Romero said that she would contact her officer that works in the field. That he returned to work on the 18th because he worked Sunday, Monday, Tuesday,
Was that
Wednesday.
John Nelson by chance?
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was Officer Michael Lafton. And so Michael waited, and just as Ms. Romero said, the officer contacted Michael, identified himself as a Forest Service officer. So Michael my son repeated the story to him that he had talked to Ms. Romero about, and the officer said no. In fact, that he and the other officer that worked the area did not confiscate any game cameras. However, if they had found them screwed into the tree, they could remove them instantly and confiscate them. Didn't have to do any notification. One of the things that I explained to Michael was, well, I've read the regulation. I've read their posts on their website. I've read the regulation. The regulation's pretty clear. Because the Officer Lapton actually informed Michael that it only applied to trailers and automobiles.
Their notification?
Their notification process. Everything. They didn't have to do that with tree stands and game cameras. I said, well, I've read 36 CFR, and it's very specific. It's probably one of the most specific parts of the regulation where some parts are real ambiguous.
You think?
Feds wrote it. What do you expect?
So it was pretty specific as what it applied to. So I printed it up and I sent it to Michael and asked him to, when he talked to him, to explain that this is what it says. If you're going to impound personal property, and this is directly to the Forest Service officer, these are the steps you must follow.
Did you, out of curiosity, did you have your names tattooed on your game cameras?
We did not.
Okay.
So part of 36 CFR 262.12 talks about, okay, if they know, if you have personal property that's considered abandoned, they can impound it. And if they know who you are, then there's a certain protocol that they have to follow. If they don't know who you are, then they have a protocol they have to follow. In my mind, timeline didn't work out. It's just they disappeared. Now, I don't have any objective evidence to tell you that they in fact did take my cameras. However, they are gone.
Two service employees that says yes, we did have 2 cameras.
They had they had said we did confiscate 2 cameras right around that time
in that area.
It just seemed coincidental.
And how long ago was this?
Latter part of August. It was August the cameras disappeared between the 11th of August and the 22nd.
So just prior to the beginning of the hunt,
they put their draconian memo out on the 16th.
Correct.
Yep. Interesting that they did that. And I mean, obviously, with each passing day, the opportunity for you to get back your trail cams is diminished, remarkably.
Remarkably, yes.
What's your next step?
I'm here.
Do I need to help you fill out the small claims court filing papers?
Well, like I said, I can't definitively. I don't have objective evidence to say that they did in fact take them. It's just as I started pulling the string, the appearance was that something was awry. It was a little the take was a little too clean. The fact that we had 2 Forest Service personnel say that they did in fact take them, and now I have no idea.
Now, you've gone to the forest supervisor with this yet?
I have not.
I would suspect that's your next opportunity to document, as you did for us, the circumstances revolving around what you did, who said what, and it's ironic that 2 trail cams were reportedly removed from the woods and that day at that location by, personnel, and then they have the one person who was part of the team that supposedly did it deny anything was removed. That doesn't fit, and I think that's where there needs to be some conversations with the forest supervisor between the people who are involved in working under him. And then you need a report back. Obviously, if there's a fine, you'll pay the fine, but you want the cameras back.
Correct.
Did the method of attachment have any conversation?
I'm not following you.
Well, you're not supposed to be using mechanical fasteners. You know that. We've talked about that.
Yep, and my bad.
Yeah, get it.
But and going forward, never mechanically fasten them again. Would I use the trees again? Yeah. Would I strap them to them?
Yeah.
Yes. Would I put bolts into the tree?
I get all that. Yeah. How about the tree stand?
Tree stand wasn't touched. Sat out there for 3 weeks.
Was it mechanically fastened?
It was strapped to the tree. It was not attached to the tree.
It was abandoned.
It was abandoned.
Which will lead us to our next story.
Yeah, that's the thing. What can we do to help you out here?
What I want to do is I want to educate people out there of what's going on. I truly believe that the Forest Service does not fully understand the regulation. I don't think that the policies and procedures align with the regulation. I think they're working outside the regulation, that they don't understand it because of the statements that they've made to us.
They've understood it for 100 years. Now they've chosen to ignore it and go after the hunters, in my opinion.
And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's ignorance or arrogance. If
the feds being arrogant? Come on, that's not possible, is it?
Well, if they're trying to enforce something that they don't have the staffing or the resources to enforce, and they don't have the funding to do, then through intimidation, maybe.
Commissioner Davis, any thoughts? I know you wrote a wonderful letter to Earl Stewart.
Is that what you call a wonderful letter? I saw a copy of that. I thought that was more of
enthusiastic.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very well written, by the way. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was.
And you know where it ended up in their office.
Yeah, that's the big circular file.
I haven't heard a response yet. I think what we have, quite frankly, from my view and hearing from people in the field, our sportsmen, we have a series of events occurring in three forests that are, in my opinion, absolutely directed at people's ability to access the resource. And so this is a follow-on, this new policy and the enforcement of it related to camps follows on also issues related to travel management. So what I think we're seeing is a series of events that are clearly targeting hunters and wanting to keep people out of the resource.
We'll hold that thought. We need to follow up on that. I'm Don McDowell here with Martin Rhodes, Commissioner Kurt Davis. I don't even know what to say about the green Prius thing.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone right now. Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to thank some of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Baby, there ain't no easy way out. Got up at dawn just to be out on the water. The weatherman said hot and getting hotter, but he didn't say nothing about it raining like hell.
Oh yeah, that's what we're getting today. But at 8:30, we're going to get a Rim Country fishing report from James Guggenauer and see how much water the Mother Lake's getting. We need water. We need water.
Lots of it.
Back to you, Commissioner. We're kicking around some of the things that's happening in the Coconino National Forest. All right, so we did the TMR. Is this kind of like payback?
Well, again, from my perspective, sitting on the commission, I'm looking at three forests that have had
out of the five that we have.
Yeah,
Six.
Very onerous.
Sixth one.
Coronado,
Apache Sickers, Tonto.
Yeah, I don't go down there.
Right.
Nor do you want to.
But
that's not safe.
That's also done. I mean, this is an important point. You have people that go out and they camp and they fish and they hunt. And when you have different requirements from one forest to another,
they're not forests, they're kingdoms.
You're creating havoc for the people who are trying to recreate. And when you do that, when they become confused and things like this, where we're going to seize people's personal property in one forest, but you don't apply that same rule in another forest, people then just give up and they don't go.
Right.
That has a massive economic impact on our state. We all know what happened during the government shutdown. We had people confused about whether their forests were shut down, even though they weren't. I was turkey hunting on the North Kaibab, and it's the least number of hunters I've ever seen in the 30 years I've been hunting up there on the turkey hunt, because people hearing the Grand Canyon were closed, some thought that meant the North Kaibab was closed. And so anyways, going to this point, you put out a statement from three forests that says Northern Arizona-bound hunters need to refrain from leaving their trailers unattended. There are lots of people who bring trailers into the forest, not just hunters. People camp, they OHV, all the things that we all love to do. They bird watch, all kinds of things on the forest. When you start identifying
selective application.
Yes, absolutely. And you're citing a state statute, their 72-hour rule that they were citing for this ridiculous policy is intended for our public highways. Your car breaks down on the highway, you don't leave it on the freeway for for 7 days.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world to me, and we understand that. Or in a particularly bad scenario, if you've got dangerous situations creating traffic hazards. Right. I'm sorry, I don't think Forest Road 132 on the south end of 6B qualifies as a danger zone.
But I'm very proud the commission and the department took immediate action. We've obviously informed the Forest Service. The commission voted to let them strongly know that this policy is an outrage and it's not acceptable. We provided a placard that people could print off on the Game and Fish website that identifies that this is not an abandoned camp. It's not an abandoned trailer. And we want, if somebody's property is tinkered with, we want them to notify the department because we want to have an interaction with the Forest Service on this issue, because at the end of the day, if it's not an abandoned camp and somebody's trailer is seized, and you're rudimentarily citing a state statute that, quite frankly, they no longer have automatic enforcement over because state law has changed about federal enforcement of state statutes. They're now required to talk to the sheriffs about that to gain approval to enforce a state statute, which has not happened in this case. But at the end of the day, we want to know, because we want to have an interaction with the Forest Service, because somebody that takes somebody's trailer or their hunt camp, their tent, whatever it is, that's grand theft under state statute. And we need to have, and we've been trying to have that conversation with them, that you need to understand that you cannot be involved. You can't create a criminal act while you're engaged in enforcing the law. So that's, from my perspective, this commissioner's perspective, they're in violation of it's a grand theft violation.
Now, how many? What we've heard, up to 6 trailers were removed from the Coconino. Is that what you heard too?
Yes.
I'm amazed only because...
And 2 trail cams.
Yeah, and 2 trail cams.
And we're talking large fines.
Oh, yeah.
To get, an impoundment fee.
Well, the daily impoundment fee, and if it's been there for 7 days, it's typically up to $80 a day that they charge you, plus the hauling, plus. I mean, you get to the point where it's not worth it to get your stuff back anymore.
My wall tent's no longer worth $1,000.
Oh, no. Okay, here's my question. In all the years that I've been in Arizona, which is now going on 28 years of camping and hiking and hunting in all of the national forests, there are many times when I've come upon what I will call something that's happened where the Forest Service needs to know what's going on. There's a violation of something. You typically drive in. If I've taken the time, and I've done it many times, you drive into the Forest Service's local office, Black Mesa Ranger District, and you say to them, "Excuse me, we've got X going on occurring in this spot. Can you get an officer out here for law enforcement?" Their response has always been, "We do not have the manpower. Contact the deputy sheriff's office. They will come out and they will administer justice for you." The chances of you getting a 4-wheel drive Crown Vic are slim and none. And then the second one is getting them on a muddy road with their clean vehicles off the highway, slim and none. So that it never happens. It never occurs. Enforcement has been and always will be a joke by the Forest Service because they're so limited in manpower and budget. They're out fighting fires all summer long. They're not going to touch anybody.
Well, and that's a good point. And the Game and Fish Department, does the vast amount of enforcement
of course you do.
On these lands. And so you don't treat your partner that way. There was no notification of
no dialogue between the department.
0, none.
Bam.
Wow.
And it's to not engage the people that you work with on the resource day in and day out on an issue like this, there is no viable explanation other than you're targeting a specific user group.
Absolutely.
There's a political agenda, and that's why, I was beyond mad is an understatement, and wanted to communicate very directly.
I have that letter framed, by the way.
It was a good one. Loved it.
You can't treat people that way that, 1, are paying your salaries. 2, that are funding the management of our state's wildlife. And that's the other piece that sometimes we have to remind the feds.
Sure.
Our wildlife is held in trust for the people of Arizona, and it's managed by Arizonans. And that is That is Game and Fish's function and role. All of us in this room are funding that preposition
all the time.
And the reason we have the wildlife we have is because of the people who are in the field buying the tags, buying the license, and it's why our model works so well in this country. And they don't have that role. That's not their responsibility. They provide a land base on which our wildlife resides. When you start impacting the ability to manage wildlife, then you are impacting the state's obligation
to its
citizens and to the wildlife in which it's enabled in our Constitution. And that this kind of act negatively impacts the ability to manage our wildlife.
These kind of things have been going on for, albeit probably the worst I've seen in recent history, the burning of the slash piles right before the hunting season starts. Another nice move. What can we, as the hunting community, sportsman community, do to help facilitate some of the comments back to the service?
Well, one of the things I would absolutely do is contact the region in Albuquerque and let the regional forest.
In my imagination, there's just a lot of BS coming out of Albuquerque. I mean, we have wolves. Sherry Barrett lives there. Come on.
But hearing from constituents and taxpayers is always a good thing. I would also, and our delegation, we obviously, the department and the commission, contacted our congressional delegation, who have been very helpful in letting the Department of Agriculture, the undersecretary, know that the 72-hour rule is unacceptable. I would contact your member of whichever member of the delegation in which you reside, which congressman or woman that you reside, and ask them to contact the Forest Service in Washington so that we keep the pressure up. And my guess is we keep the pressure up down that we're going to find pretty quick that they're going to run for the tall grass on this one because it's indefensible.
It is. I wish I had known about that when I was helping Congressman Salmon on his deer hunt this September 1st.
Well,
it would have been a real interesting conversation.
It's not too late.
Yeah. And he's one of the
he's a good guy.
He's let people know. Senator McCain sent a very direct communication to the undersecretary. Senator Flake did as well. Congressman Gosar. They've directly communicated in strong terms how this is nothing more than attack on hunters.
A selective attack on a particular segment of the population. It's called, it's attacking us.
Yeah. And
There's
again,
discrimination against hunters.
If something occurs once, it may be a mistake, but this follows on the same three forests on travel management.
This is in writing. This was totally premeditated.
Of course.
All right, having said all those things, we'll get back, recap that more on Martin's issue. I'm going to make some suggestions you may not like, but if it were me, I'll give you my 2 cents worth. And then, unfortunately, about the 7:55 hour, we have 2 soldiers to recognize that were killed in action this past week, paying the price tag for your freedom. I'm Don McDowell.
John Colazar.
Kurt Davis.
And Martin Rhodes.
We'll be right back.
Church on Sunday morning.
You get a line, I get a bowl. There's one thing I know, no matter where I go.
All right, so much for George Strait. He'll be back.
He better be.
Yeah, man. All right, Brother Rhodes, what are you going to do?
Well, right now, I want to come out and educate everybody and share my story.
We call it education.
Edumacation.
Yes.
And share my story. One of the things that really caught my attention when we were dealing with the Coconino County Forest Service was the inconsistency in the information they were providing us.
Hammer them.
We were on their website. On their website, they have a notice to hunters, and this was consistent with what the officer had told.
I'm sorry, they have a what?
They have a notice to hunters.
Oh, got that. Okay.
Notice to hunters, and it says,
that.
currently there is no specific regulation regarding game cameras left in the forest. The Forest Service does not recommend leaving any property in the forest. Game cameras have frequently been reported stolen, and after 72 hours, they are considered abandoned property. When my son spoke with on their website.
Why would you have a trail cam if you're sitting there with it all the time? It's just called a camera. Trail cam means it has to be left on the trail, not on your possession. You could carry it on your backpack and turn around and make sure it takes pictures from your backside.
This is the voice of moderation.
Moderation and reason, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm tracking with you. I found it strange when Officer Lapton spoke with my son and said that, well, this rule only applies to trailers and automobiles. And so when I pulled up the regulation, it's very specific as to what type of property, what is considered personal property. And it says automobiles, vehicles, trailers, boats, camping equipment, and other inanimate personal property. That pretty much covers it all.
You got it.
And then
so they're falling back on the finders keepers rule.
Yeah, pretty much. So the inconsistency in what we were told and what the regulation says tells me that they're working outside of the rule. If they're in noncompliance with federal regulation, that's regulatory noncompliance, sets them up for either legal action or enforcement action. Because this regulation is directed specifically at them and how they will impound personal property. They have to follow it. There's no caveat that allows them to deviate from this regulation.
Here's my suggestion. File suit, small claims court. Don't start laughing. Not yet.
Okay.
Give them write them a letter. Give them 30 days to return your personal property. Include a check, self-addressed envelope for postage to send you your stuff. Day 31, if you don't have it back, bam, take them to court. And I'd ask the judge for a search warrant to go to the good officer's house, search his truck, search his garage, and his backpack.
He's probably got it in the woods already, that he's using it.
Well, I'm just saying,
loud.
how else are you going to hold these guys accountable? I'm not going to ask Commissioner. I'm not going to put him on the spot.
Don't go there. Not today.
Well, one of the things.
If you don't take him to court, you're going to get the runaround. We have seen the run on the stuff that we do. Wolves, as an example. Any number of issues. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on, and you will get the proverbial runaround until you turn blue or snap. You have to take them to court. Hold them to task, and that's not even a for sure deal.
Correct.
You're probably not going to get your cameras back, but I'd make a point in case going, hey, here's what these guys did. Here's what happened to me. Here was the remedy. I did all I could do.
I would suggest too, Don, that in this matter, the person that has law enforcement authority in that area is Sheriff Bill Pribble, Coconino County Sheriff. And by the way, the Arizona Sheriff's Association is very supportive of and has written letters also in support of the Commission's position on the 72-hour rule. But I would actually spend the time to talk to them and tell them, give them the evidence that you have and the conversation that occurred about the possession of the cameras, and ask them if they would be willing to take a look at this matter.
I have a question too, Commissioner.
With a search warrant.
Commissioner Davis, if you you can't file in small claims court against a federal agency, you would have to go to federal court, would you not?
I hadn't thought about that.
No, I think you were right.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney, but I think you're right. Now there are also remedies related to regulatory,
right?
Yeah, compliance. But I think the quickest way would be the first conversation would be have a conversation with the sheriff, because if property is stolen in his county, he obviously has the authority to deal with property that is stolen and investigate that and come to determinations. If there's evidence that's available, he can obviously deal with that. And they are not happy with this 72-hour rule, because guess where the trailers get hauled to?
Yeah, we know.
And
Fast Eddies. While you be sleeping, we come creeping.
Yeah, and then they're stuck dealing with very irritated constituents on something they have nothing to do with.
So, are you recommending to file a formal theft complaint?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody steals your property, what would you do if it was in your front yard? I mean, if it, you know, at your home, where would you go? I mean, you go
shoot,
to your
move it, adjust fire.
local police department or the county sheriff.
Those
depending where you
punji
live.
stakes in the ground in front of Don McDowell's residence, folks. You do not want to fall into that. Lord.
I guess if we know what we're doing this afternoon.
I guess we do.
You want to drive Flagstaff?
Sure.
I'm in.
Here's one thing that I thought was really strange, based on the inconsistencies that go ahead.
Make your point. We need to do roll call.
Okay. With the inconsistencies in the regulation, one of the things that they have to do, if they know who the individual is that owns the property, and with the trailer you would, because you could pull up the license plate and you'd be able to run the plate and you would know who it is. Once they know who the individual is, they have to send a registered letter. Once the individual who owns the trailer has the registered letter, they have 5 days before they can even touch the property and impound it.
Do you have serial numbers recorded on your cameras?
Probably.
Wow. Okay. Alrighty. In theater, it's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks. We've had no soldiers killed in battle. A number of soldiers wounded in action. This week we had 2 soldiers go down. Our Army Staff Sergeant Richard L. Vasquez died November 13, 2013, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. 28 years old, in Seguin, Texas. The Staff Sergeant was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 7th Specialist Forces Group, which is airborne out of Elgin Air Force Base, Florida. Died November 13th in Kandahar, Afghanistan, after wounds suffered when his unit was attacked with an improvised explosive device while on dismounted patrol.
Army Staff Sergeant Alex A. Viola died November 17, 2013, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was 29 years old, of Keller, Texas, assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 7th Special Forces Group, airborne out of Elgin Air Force Base, Florida. He died in Kandahar, Afghanistan, of wounds suffered when his unit was attacked with an improvised explosive device while on dismounted patrol.
Our prayers and thoughts go out to their family, their units, and guys, it keeps happening. The price of freedom every week is 1, 2, 9 soldiers. Think about that.
Come on, brother, I'm begging you.
It's time for Shake, Rattle, and Troll, a show for the serious fisherman, as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros. Shake, Rattle, and Troll is brought to you by Bill Luke Dodge Chrysler Jeep. Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman and tournament pro, Don McDowell.
Hey, Don McDowell, welcome to the second hour with Shake, Rattle, and Troll. JK's in the house. I believe he's been eating M&M's today. Wired as normal. My pleasure to have Commissioner Kirk Davis here from Arizona Game and Fish Board of Commissioners, and Martin Rhodes is sharing.
He's our guest victim of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And there are more.
Oh yes, I know there are.
There are more. Talking about some of the things that Coconino County has done.
Not the county.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Coconino County.
Coconino National Forest.
Let me get
federal
it out. Hey,
employees.
I'm a Flagstaff guy. It's Coconino County first, and then everybody else. But yeah, Coconino National Forest seizing abandoned camps, and we're going down through that. Commissioner, in a nutshell, where do you think this is headed? What is the commission? I mean, you guys are really proactive. I'm proud we have a pretty stand-up board of commissioners, and you guys are active. You especially seem to roll your sleeves up and go, all right, let's get into it. and we haven't had
Shrinking
that for a
violet
long,
that he may
we
be.
haven't had that for a long time.
Well, I think where it'll go, I guess I'm hopeful that in the next week that we'll hear something back from the Forest Service where they will come to the conclusion that, one, the enforcement of this, as mentioned before, they don't, even if you wanted to enforce this, the reality is they don't have the resources to do it, and it takes them away from the kinds of things they should be actually working on. So I'm hopeful, after hearing from the delegation, hearing from the commission, very clearly hearing from the department, and obviously constituents as well, that, in the next week, I hope that we hear something that they realize, let's go about this differently. There's a 14-day rule. Everybody understands that rule.
We do.
And
it gets violated with impunity by a whole lot of retirees who travel the country.
Well, we were talking about, off the air, saying, around Flagstaff, transient camps are a huge issue.
Sure.
That's where their focus should be.
Even this time of year?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
When I lived up there, I've lived there for 15 years, and it was a big issue right behind the neighborhood that I lived in. And I would regularly call, because many of the transient camps weren't simply transients. They were people who didn't want to interact with the general public, and
had a little bit of an illicit drug trade going.
I had a young, I have a young
Green
daughter,
crops.
and
PTSD.
so those are the kinds of things they need to be focused on. I don't think they need to be worrying about hunt camps.
No.
And it's pretty easy to tell the difference. I never had any problem telling the difference between a hunt camp.
Well, that's, I spent
Something about that electrically powered washing machine and dryer that they had out in their hunting camp.
Yeah. I did have a long discussion a couple of weeks ago when this thing first. I talked to you that morning.
Yep.
And was on the phone to Earl Stewart. Had your letter in my hand and wanted to talk to Mr. Stewart about that. Wouldn't come to the phone. I got a chap by the name of Brady Smith that he was kind of hung up on citing ARS 28-4801 and
State statute.
Yeah, well, he just hung up on the two, 4831 as well, describing what was or is. I'm still trying to figure out what the definition of is, but what constitutes an abandoned camp, an abandoned vehicle, and went into the, you don't have any idea what we have to go through, abandoned vehicles, abandoned airplanes and boats. I said, I get it. You have a job to do. But if your personnel aren't smart enough to determine what's an abandoned vehicle versus what's an abandoned camp, right? I mean, we need to have them down at HR.
And again, there is 14 days. Is there is the world going to change that dramatically between 72 hours and 14 days? We're simply asking them for uniformity to enforce the 14-day, which most people are familiar with and has been applied on all those forests for since vehicles have been.
Yes.
And so
selective enforcement to a particular group is called discrimination. And we all know if it talks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, we're going to call it a duck. And that's what's going on right now. The Forest Service does not like the hunting community. Anybody this is supposedly a multiple use. They're not going to touch the cattle ranchers, although they do push an awful lot on those guys. But the hunting community, the hunting community is one that they can selectively go after.
We need to push back.
With the environmentally based greenies that are now working and are in power positions within the Forest Service, this is the next war that we're going to have. And quite frankly, I am amazed that the Forest Supervisor did not take the time to talk to you and to back up anything, but to hand you off like that speaks volumes to the disrespect that they have for the hunting community today. Voice moderation.
Back to you, Martin.
And again, let's cite from the press release. I mean, the Coconino National Forest, and by again the Kaibab also, Apache Sitz Graves as well. The Coconino or the Prescott, the Coconino National Forest is asking all northern Arizona-bound hunters to refrain from leaving their trailers unattended. So I guess it's okay if you're a northern Arizona-bound
transient,
right? I mean, that's the problem.
I'd go to Florida.
And again, let's talk about the economics of this.
That's huge.
If if you damage the number of hunters in the field by 20%,
that's huge.
The ramifications on our state's wildlife, our state's economy, jobs, that number will rack up so fast, and the tax base that is needed. When people go to Flagstaff to go hunting, when they go into town and they purchase things, or Williams or wherever it is, they're in. You're impacting. It's unbelievable how many jobs are impacted in those communities by folks coming, northern Arizona bound hunters, as they refer to them. They're keeping the lights on in people's homes, but most importantly, they're providing the funding that maintains a viable wildlife population in our state. So the Forest Service is working against
itself.
Yeah. And against those attributes, and that's not acceptable.
Well, it's preservationist versus use. You know that.
Any thoughts on why Apache Cigarettes didn't sign on to this particular?
Because they were rational, and so is the Tonto. That's the other interesting thing, because one of the things that we had the department do is obviously contact the other forests and ask, how come you're not enforcing the 72 hour? There's hunting going on, obviously, in those forests as well.
Absolutely.
I think, quite frankly, it's just, and again, if we go back, which three forests have had a fatally flawed travel management planning process and an implementation of new travel management rules? The same three forests. So my argument would be, obviously, 1 time's a mistake, 2 times is a pattern. And the pattern in those 3 forests has been to try to diminish people's opportunities.
Correct.
And that's why the letter that I wrote was partly built up anger from seeing the fatally flawed travel management process that those 3 forests engaged in too, which were also directed at hunters and other recreationists that want to use the forest.
Apache County, as you know, and we know that have been following the wolf issue, passed an internal ordinance giving the county sheriff supreme authority within those counties.
Over canids.
Forests, to do their enforcement. Has that been tested in law yet in court?
It hasn't been tested here. Now, there's been, not directly on point, there has been issues that you could argue are substantially similar in other parts of the country, and a lot will come down to if you're engaged in a federal court action, the district that you're in. And in our case, we're in the 9th district, and sometimes not the friendliest district to preserving the state's
fairly
autonomy.
Liberal, yeah.
And so, but you know what? I absolutely understand the frustration, and I understand why people want to take action. And taking action about protecting the state's ability to manage our wildlife, to manage our economy, to manage our jobs, to manage our freedom. You can't ever push back too hard on those things, as far as I'm concerned.
And then the question comes up, back when Arizona was chartered, there was provision in our state's charter, and I don't know what happened to it, that all the federal land was to be turned over to the state in 1912. What happened to that?
Yeah.
We the people will be right back after a short break.
My God, you're smiling. You catch my eye. He used to send me pictures of the Broadway nights, and I'd send him some homemade wine.
All righty, we're back visiting with Commissioner Davis and Martin Rhodes, and JK is providing reason and moderation today. I appreciate that.
As always, Don.
Let's kind of change gears a little bit. We've got a number of things going on that I think are pretty significant this upcoming next couple of weeks. We've got a wolf management recovery meeting December 3rd on the Honda Casino on the reservation. Something that's occurred to me, how does it happen?
But Don, too, make sure that people are reminded that was a battle as well.
Just to get it there.
Have a hearing in Arizona.
Right.
Period.
But how do we have a federal hearing
on an
state
independent
issue,
nation,
on a sovereign nation that gets paid $120,000 to have wolves?
No, it's more like $200,000 a year.
Oh, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do you have the hearing there?
Yeah.
I would have probably, if I had been in charge, would have probably had the hearing in Springerville and maybe in the dome up there, because the crowd will obviously be very large, and I'm quite frankly worried that
there's not going to be space even in that conference center.
Yeah,
correct. And
so let's hope that's the case.
It's ridiculous planning to begin with, but we had again, flurry of letters, phone calls, having to have the delegation get engaged to actually have a hearing in Arizona, because we tried to explain.
But why the reservation? I'm not tracking on that.
I'm not either. I mean, if I were making the decision, it would clearly be in Springerville, Eager. I mean,
And Sherry Barrett hadn't answered that particular question. Not that she's answered any questions.
She won't.
That I've had.
Although we could have a fundraiser, I could have a race.
You can't.
No, we can have a race from Phoenix to to the Honda Casino. Okay. It'll be Sandy Barr's Prius against mine.
Now, if you wanted to have a hearing there, also have a hearing in Springerville, Eager. I mean, the hearing should take place in multiple locations throughout the state of Arizona and potentially an impacted region. And what we have is it took a browbeating to schedule a single hearing in a place that I don't believe will have the capacity to handle it.
Out of curiosity, why was Sacramento picked? Do you have any idea? I haven't figured that out. There is a single wolf in California. I know that, the Wanderer.
It's a suitable habitat over there, I guess.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But this was the ridiculousness of that situation. I mean, D.C., Sacramento,
Denver, they've got their own wolf issue.
And to come, it was, from my perspective, a slap in the face, again, of the constituents impacted constituents in the state of Arizona, and the policymakers, that many of which will now go to that hearing. But that should have been the first. Where in Arizona are we going to have the hearings? And what 2 or 3 locations are we going to have the hearings? Not come out with a list.
Payson offered up.
Payson offered the high school.
Absolutely.
They went down and put a $250 deposit on the high school.
Yeah. No, again, I don't believe there's a viable excuse.
How about an underlying motive?
Well, again, we all know that hearing will be contentious.
It will. And here's what's going to happen. If J.K., I'm just using his as an example, gets into it with Juanita Coyote.
Anybody howling next to me?
Yeah.
I'm going to put their lights out.
And then we've lost J.K. for a minimum of 6 months because we can't get him
I'll be on the reservation
jail.
We all know that. I mean, we sitting around this table here probably would not agree 100% on wolf policy. That's the purpose of the hearing, is to hear from people and their positions.
Correct.
And the people that are actually impacted by the decision. You at least should have a modicum of common sense to say, if I'm going to impact people very dramatically, I'm going to go listen to all the opinions and facets of this issue, where that decision is going to have the most immediate impact.
Common sense in the federal government. Is that an oxymoron?
I'm very frustrated, as a game and fish commissioner, because to me these things are common sense. You have as many public hearings. You have to have the capacity to hear and allow people to have their say, whether I agree or not with their say. They have a right to be there and be heard.
Well, every time there's any issue that the department has had, you have always generated, particularly I remember with the OHV regulations, when we were working with that legislation piece going through the state, the department at that time held probably 20 different meetings in various areas and gave everybody the opportunity to come and make a comment on it. And the biggest thing is that it protects the department, because if somebody comes forward later and says, hey, I didn't know, you have no opportunity to say anything. Some of those meetings had as few as 4 or 5 people. Some had as many as 40 to 50. But it's the public's opportunity to come forward, make a statement, let the department know what their feelings were. Mm-hmm. And by whitewashing Arizona, and if we hadn't put up the stink, there would have been nothing in Arizona.
Absolutely correct.
I think Payson's meeting, and congratulations to Payson because they had that turnout that they did. If we hadn't had that kind of vigor and emotion in the Payson meeting, I don't think we would be seeing a Honda meeting today.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but that meeting strategically blindsided
Ms. Barrett.
Most of them. Well, the first half, she and what was the other gal's name that was there?
From.
I'm going to move on. The first portion of the meeting was fairly hostile.
Correct.
Sherry Barrett was sliding down underneath the chair because she happened to choose a seat in and amongst the cattlemen. And some really pissed off moms. The second meeting, the second portion of it, there were, I would say, more than half of the pro-woofers showed up that weren't at the first half.
No.
After everybody else had left. So I think we really need to be on our A game.
Well, we need to go early to listen to the presentation and how to make a comment.
Doyle Shamley said he was starting at noon. They were going to have a replay of a portion of their symposium where Matt Cronin and some of the other
Jim Beers
appeared just for informational. So I think in our planning we need to, figure being there about 1100. I'm just saying.
I know. In order for us to be heard, in order for us to get the 2 minutes that they're saying we can, plus provide the written document, and that's the other thing. I'm going to talk for 2 minutes, but I'm going to have a written document that goes point by point by point through the last FEIS that they published in 1998 that is so full of inaccuracies and, as it turns out, wrong reasons to do what they did. That, from spending to the numbers to how it was going to affect people all up and down the line, and all the models that they used were worthless because all of them have proved to be wrong. So
their models got eaten.
Yeah.
All right, September 5th, you're having a Sportsman Open Forum.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going to come down, and what do you hope to gain there?
Well, again, as mentioned, and I appreciate the department, the commission working with the department really pushes on we do want to hear what people have to say. I actually love the emails and the comments we get on whether it's, guidelines, mm-hmm. License simplification. We went through a very exhaustive public outreach to allow people to come in and talk.
You went to everybody on that. Yeah, I mean, that garnered full support, and it was based totally on the fact that you sold that deal to everybody. I mean, everybody knew exactly what you were trying to do and why. You came to all the conservation groups, plus the public meetings, plus any other organization that wanted to listen. So kudos to you on the way you handled that.
So this is a continuation of that, Don, is let people come in if there's issues that either they don't understand what the position of the department is and want to know why, which is, fair game, as opposed to waiting till issues fester or, myth is created around an issue, providing that opportunity. Because, the commission meetings, as you know, or you deal with a specific agenda, the ability to interact is much more limited. So this provides a whole different kind of forum. People can come chew out a commissioner if they want to.
Nice. That doesn't happen too often.
Really?
Once in a while. Hey, we're going to stand down, take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Angler Roundtable meeting, number 3, December 4th at the Tonto Basin School with James Guggenauer and the Rim Country Fishing Report. I'm Don McDowell.
Martin Rhodes.
Kurt Davis.
JK.
Yeah, man. We'll be right back.
Kiss my big old bass, kiss my bass. I'm going fishing
right, hey James, looks like you've got some new theme music, brother.
Hey, how you doing today, Don?
We're doing good. We're blessed with the presence of Commissioner Davis and Martin Rhodes, and kicking around some of the things that are being done to us up in the Coconino National Forest.
Yep, I've been following along on your website, and certainly glad to hear Commissioner Davis' word.
That was JK. Never mind.
I apologize. I won't do it again.
Anyway, yeah, you were saying?
I was just thanking Commissioner Davis for coming in today and for what he's saying here. Good insights and good knowledge that the message is getting to the commissioners.
Well, you know, from where I sit, as a sportsman, I'm pretty confident on our Board of Commissioners and certainly Commissioner Davis for them being timely, jumping on these issues, in full battle strength to complete the mission. So,
absolutely agree.
I want to, before we get sidetracked on anything else, the December 4th Tonto Basin School Angler Roundtable 3 meeting is coming down. What time does that start?
That meeting is going to start at 7 o'clock, and we're planning for it to go till 8:30.
Okay.
And really good news on that this past week. I've been in contact most every day with Kurt Gill and Chief Cantrell, and we're working on a detailed schedule that we're going to present at that meeting that will list all of the activities that need to be done and who's responsible and the durations for it. So kudos to Chief Cantrell for organizing this and getting involved with us.
Was there any mention of the wildlife seat? Has that become public knowledge at this point?
No.
Okay, we'll sidestep that one and keep moving.
Okay, thanks.
All right, what's up with the Mother Lake getting a drink of water this week?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about those. We have a few things to cover. The first is that 2 days ago, the no-entry buoys went into place on Roosevelt Lake. This is protection for the Canadian geese migration.
Yeah, all 25 of them. All right, I get it.
Yeah, and these will be on Goose Flats all the way down to Long Gulch.
Was that near Goose Slips, too?
Yeah. So,
Stop.
Every year it seems like, when I go down there, I always see a boat back in there, and I know they just kind of watch them there. So this restriction is going to be in place until February 15th.
Whose boat is that?
Has
they got a big Healy County star on the side of it?
Well, that's usually the second boat that goes in there.
Well, they're trespassing. They need to heed the buoys.
Yeah, right. And
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, bass fishing was called good this past week. At least up until the rain started to flow. We'll get to that in a second. But we've been talking, Don, the last couple of weeks about these spoons, and that bite just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Now, what I heard this past week is guys are also using 1-ounce jigs. And right where if they can find some balls of shad that are near any type of structure, they've been casting jigs onto those structures, and for whatever reason, the bass are down there looking. I don't know if that's where dead shad are falling or why they go for it, but heavy jigs were just as effective as spoons in some cases if the balls of shad were close to structure. Now, if they're suspended out in the middle of the lake, definitely spoons. You're just going to drift down through them.
No, and I have a question. Has anybody discussed throwing 1 ounce or ounce and a half spinner blades?
I haven't heard that. What I've been hearing is that the bass were in like 35 to 55 feet of water. So I guess you could get a spinnerbait down there or even a deep diving crankbait.
Well, the great big ones, the ounce and a half ledge busters this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's one that you can pick up in Tonto Basin. It's made by a local guy down there. It's called a Big Mama, and it's a replicate of that. But it's a good wintertime bait for sure.
Nice.
Hey, and crappie fishing is also starting to pick up. We're starting to see the armada You know how in the wintertime the boats kind of troll around together?
Yeah.
Well, this past week, I was down there, and I saw 5 boats sitting down there on the Tonto End, all kind of following one another around. So if you like that type of fishing, it's a weighted jig head, usually about a 1/4 ounce or 3/16, and you're going to use a 2-inch curly tail grub, or you can use a live minnow. But not hard to figure out. Just go look for where the other boats are trolling around and kind of go get in line.
Hey, that's what Judy Cheney does. No problem.
Yeah. Well, I won't go there. Okay, I understand.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Now, we had some snow up on the rim, had a good bit, so we're going to have to check the weather forecast. But, you know, every report that I get from guys that go up on the rim, guys go there pretty regular, like the Dennis Perches and the Dean Pedersen guys, I mean, they are just catching a limit every time they go up there, and they don't see another angler. So if you like going up and doing some trout fishing, especially in the colder weather, you know, you might have a week or 2 left before the place freezes over. But some good fishing up on the rim. Everybody uses like a little Roadrunner or a little crawfish colored crankbait.
Yep.
Seem to work well on those lakes up there.
I've learned in English Lit that 2 words don't belong in the same sentence: ice and fishing. just not happening.
Oh, you wuss. I've done it many, many times.
Yeah.
That's a malfunction, JK.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I live in Arizona now.
Yeah.
Let me talk about the water going into Roosevelt Lake. Yesterday, there was a huge, as you would expect, a huge change in the flows. Literally, the Tonto Creek went from flowing from less than 10 cubic feet per second till this morning when it's flowing at 780 cubic feet per second.
Wow.
Whoa.
And the Tonto Creek is flowing at 720 feet per second. So
Fast in, fast out.
yeah, I mean, it is really a lot of water coming in there. You know, and I tell everybody that in the spring, when we're talking about how good the fishing is on Roosevelt Lake, we have to think back to this weekend, you know, because that water, not only the fresh water, but the nutrients that it brings in, the new plants that go underwater, I mean, all that helps the fishery down there. So we're always glad. We hope we get more this winter.
Well, that's flowing strong enough to go tubing. What do you say, JK?
No, not today. No. Yeah. Thank you.
One more thing that we've been talking about up here, we've been spreading the word pretty heavily that, you know, Arizona Game and Fish has been passing out warning after warning about clean, drain, and dry. Starting January 1st, it's going to start to be enforced. So we're reminding everybody, clean, drain, and dry, no matter what lake you're on, even if it's not one of the affected lakes, you still should be doing that just out of good habit to help the fisheries.
Is that don't move a muscle thing, Don?
It is. There's going to be another media blitz coming out. The first one that came out targeted primarily the quagga mussels on Lake Pleasant. However, the LMBV is on the AIS list. The Salt River Lake chains have that, so they're going to be looking everywhere. Let's just say.
Hey, and you know, the thing that I tell people, you know, I've heard some guys complain about that, and I said, how long does it take to pull the plug and to drain your live wells? I mean, you're talking, most guys spend 15 minutes wiping down their boat, but yet they leave the plug in. It makes no sense to me.
I personally don't get that. Let's say you've got a $35,000 to $65,000 bass boat. Why would you keep the water in your boat?
Right.
These motors cost $18,000. Come on.
That's for sure.
And I think we ought to take it a step further with Sam Shattenberg is to get rid of the chicken bones on the non-motor side. So,
okay.
Yeah, here's the deal. Looking at the bond fee, suggested fines will be $50 for not pulling your plug. Will be the first one. Now, if they continue on and look in your boat and you have water in your boat, that will be an additional $375. So if you do the math, that rounds out to about $425. You're going to go see the judge. Right. So in my mind, it's more timely, let's say, to pull your plug, drain your boat, wipe it out, and go on about your business.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot cheaper.
You know, and especially when you look at a place like Roseville, where we do most of our fishing up here, there is no excuse, because at the top of every ramp, there's a staging area where there's a perfect opportunity. It's not like you don't have an area to pull to or anything like that. I mean, they've planned for all this, and it's just a good habit. I don't know how else to say that. People ought to just understand that.
All right, we got about one more minute. Who from Payson is showing up December 3rd at the Hyundai Lodge in Pine Top for the wolf recovery?
Several anglers this week and hunters. So I expect guys like, we'll see Clifford Perch there, we'll see Dennis Perch there, and, some of the big-name guys from Payson that do some fishing, and hope we have a big turnout. We encourage everyone to get there, carpool, whatever it takes, because it sounds like we're going to be there. I heard you say earlier, Don, that we're probably going to be limited to 2 minutes worth of talking.
2 or 3.
I agree with the idea. They will accept written information. So put together a presentation that's got charts or graphs or whatever you want to present, and so we can get those things submitted.
And wear your camouflage.
And wear camo. You got it.
Okay. All right, you have a blessed weekend. Good job, James. We'll talk to you next week. James Guggenau, Rim Country Fishing Rods. Check him out online. Absolutely a master rod builder. I'm Don McDowell.
Martin Rhodes.
Kurt Davis.
JK.
We'll be back after a short break, get this thing wrapped up, and get on with the day. All righty, we're back. Got a few minutes to get this thing cleaned up. First of all, Commissioner, thank you so much for coming down. Always good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good job up there, and anything we can do to support the battle on the multiple fronts that we have, man, there's just so much stuff going on. It's just crazy. Do you go to any of the meetings?
I've been to a couple.
We need to get you engaged.
All right.
You're a good fighter.
I'm on board.
Yeah, all right. Good stuff. In closing this up, so now that you've had my 2 cents worth, a nickel's worth from Commissioner Davis, JK gave you $1.50 worth. What are you going to do with your camera issue?
Well, I'm going to take Commissioner Davis's recommendation and get a hold of Sheriff Prybill and plead my case, and see where local law enforcement will take me. One of the things that I wanted to do today, and I want to thank you for letting me come down here and do that, is share my story, and for other sportsmen that are out there that like to camp, fish, and hunt like I do, information is power. Go out and educate yourself. That way, if you think that you're being treated unfairly, then you'll know what kind of recourse you have and how to do it and do it correctly. I want to be able to continue to go out there and hunt and camp and fish and teach my grandchildren all the wonderful things that I and my children have been able to do together. And but if they're the good guys, you expect the good guys to do the good things, but if the good guys are taking action against you and you feel like it's not fair, information is power. Educate yourself on what the regulations, what the policies, what are the procedures out there that regulate the things that we like to do as sportsmen.
Well, we're faced with the very same decision that we're sitting here talking about. We have 2 elk tags on the late cow hunt, and that's what we do. We go up the week before, which there's a late bull hunt going on, and set up camp and torment the bull hunters only because we don't have bull tags.
I love that.
And not on OHVs, however. But I tell you what, you come rolling down 231, driving a 5-ton, hoorah!
Nobody's getting in his way.
I can picture it.
Yeah. But we're having that discussion right now. Is what do we do? Do we take it and set it up and leave it, or that.
I've seen your camp. It sometimes does look abandoned, even though there are people there.
Pretty much. We're no frills.
Make sure you go to the website and print off the placard and have it very easy to see in your camp. And, Don, if you run into issues, like tell every other hunter, make sure you contact the department.
Absolutely.
We want to know about these cases.
No, I definitely, I hadn't thought about what you advised, calling the sheriff and, hey, somebody stole my trailer.
If you have it posted and then you also have booby traps on it, I wonder what would happen.
An ink bladder.
Yeah.
That just, I know, Martin, his bulb just came on. Does it rhyme with tripwire?
That's not a bad idea.
I'm thinking.
When we were talking about the 14-day the camping requirement, I think everybody that does pull a trailer or even likes to camp out in the woods knows what that requirement is. If you read the regulation, it seems like Coconino County Forest Service it'd be like herding cats. It'd be a hard regulation to enforce because of the requirements for impounding property.
Once they get your stuff, you know what kind of hell you have to go through to get it back?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that illegal seizure of property?
It's grand theft.
Okay.
Yeah. So you take my trailer, I'm going to steal your truck.
Trade off.
Yeah.
In your case, Don, their truck's worth more.
Oh, man.
But I want to thank you for having me today.
Always a pleasure, Martin. Always a pleasure. We had Pastor Scott up. We share the same pastor, and Pastor Scott.
He must be working really hard.
He's got his work cut out for him.
You want to talk about an uphill battle with McDowell?
We have been in every men's class that they offer.
Yep.
Even suggested we take some women's classes so we understand that particular thought process.
You can't do
Pastor
that.
Scott's set up on down in 6B on a Sunday morning, and here comes a quad. He's watching. He's getting he got a muzzle loader. The herd of deer is coming down. There's the 3-point coming down, and here comes a guy on a yellow quad that we've seen no less than a half a dozen times. Squeals his brakes, turns it sideways, jumps off, runs up the hill chasing the buck. I said, Pastor, how'd that make you feel? He said, well, I wanted to let the air out of his tires with my knife. Nice! So, having said that, I invited him to some of the classes that he made Martin and I take.
Rage has no boundaries.
No, it just, it's total aggravation. Just totally. And, unfortunately, the way things are going, the hunting community, the users, we have to give our 2 cents worth vigorously. It's a battle, and it's a battlefront on numerous cases. I would encourage you to show up at the Honda Lodge on the 3rd.
Activism versus reactivism, because if you don't do something now, it's going to be 10 times harder after everything's passed for you to have any effect on change.
Absolutely. And the conservation dollars that are spent, that's a result of hunting. The antis don't do, okay, I'm going to give them credit. They go out and buy some hiking boots, and they buy some binoculars, and they buy some
granola bars.
Those Bushnells, the 7x10s.
Yeah, well, my point is they're not really contributing, in my mind, any significance to the Dingell Johnson money or the Pittman Robin money, any of that
They're not.
That constitutes the millions and millions and millions of dollars that...
The bottom line is the United States has the most healthy wildlife population in the world because of hunters, anglers, the people that have had an ethos of wanting to see a vibrant and diverse wildlife population. It's here simply because of hunters, and to say otherwise is just not factual.
Are you going to be in attendance on the 3rd?
I'm supposed to be out of town for work in my real job, but I'm
Pinetop is out of town, Commissioner.
Just so you know.
I was supposed to be in our nation's capital. I'm trying to get all that changed so I can get up there.
Nice.
Yeah.
How many people from the department are attending?
I don't know the exact number. Obviously, it will be a significant turnout because of the different aspects that this policy issue affects multiple areas that sometimes we don't even think about.
Are the enforcement guys allowed to carry firearms on the res?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I never even thought about that. I don't know.
I know they have their own agency personnel. They have their own game and fish department employees who will be carrying weapons at the casino.
And I know there's cooperative enforcement that goes on. So my guess is
maybe.
Yes. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we're really anticipating a couple of hundred people showing up. Ryan Benson, Sean Mathewson from Big Game Forever will be down for this one. This is a milestone meeting. The one up in Denver that they had this past week was visited by the Pro Woofer group, and apparently it didn't go the way they wanted to, so they went out in the hallway and started howling. So, oh yeah, Martin, you'd have no idea. I mean, this.
No, and I think it's a great written documentation.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And make some salient points as to the why they should not be here. Don't do it based on emotion.
No, you can't. No. It's going nowhere. All righty. Hope you had a little bit of insight today, Martin. We'll be happy to engage in your fight and engage in our fight.
Thank you.
It's a big one. It's all for our kids and the next generation.
Absolutely.
Commissioner, I'd like to thank you for coming down. And JK, sometimes I'm down with absolutely speechless. This is one of those times. All right. Hey, take your kids fishing, hug your bass boat, salute a soldier. We are out of here.